To a Nerds podcast. All things nerds, music, horror movies, pro wrestling, video games, anything nerds would like.
Back with another Nerds podcast. Today I have someone back again. I'm very happy, very appreciative. You were nice enough to do this. Jesse Wilcox. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
So, how you been lately? I hope everything, music or anything you're doing is pretty good lately.
I've been working on music a little bit here and there. I've not really been mentally well.
I'm sorry.
To work on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming along. I think I'll be releasing something soon, hopefully.
That's cool. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's cool. As long as you just you try to just put something into it is all that matters. And last time we talked, I didn't really get to talk about music. It's okay. The conversation was awesome, so I wasn't really upset. And as long as the other person I'm talking to is gearing the conversation, because I don't want them ever making it about me. And if the conversation is a cool conversation, I'm cool with it. So, this time, regardless of how it goes, I like to talk to you about music and your goals in music and your musical taste and whatnot. And when did you graduate? I don't think I ever asked you that. If I did, I'm gonna ask you again.
I think about 2009. Yeah.
So your generation is different from my generation because I graduated in '93, and when I was in high school, I'm gonna say high school is the focal point that anyone who's I listened to Alice in Chains when I was in high school, I listened to Metallica, or I listened to Snoop, or I listened to whatever. And I'm assuming, what was the rock or ever music that was playing in your generation? I don't want to say your favorite, but what was playing in your generation?
Well, mostly, when I was growing up, it was oh my gosh. I think I was 15 in 2005. So, all of the music was 2000s music.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up listening to TLC, Linkin Park, and then Slipknot, and then all of that.
That's cool.
But most of the stuff on the radio was 90s pop.
That's cool,
and
though.
Rock. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool though, because I'm not gonna say 8th grade. I'm gonna say 9th grade. 9th grade, because UMTV Raps is not a thing now because hip hop was it's everywhere. But when I grew up, hip hop was not necessarily accessible unless you went out and looked for it. It's it sounds silly, but MTV was not as gracious for a lot of famous black artists. And I think it's on VH1 did this special on MTV a long time ago, and it's back in the day. And then there's people Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson transcends everything, and I guess maybe Prince, and maybe there's a few R&B pop singers that went so far beyond, and maybe Run DMC maybe got to the top charts around that time, but it was early on VJs, and they were interviewing David Bowie. David Bowie, he was just talking, and out of the blue, for no warm reason, he said, "Hey, by the way, how come y'all playing any more black artists?" And the guy was he didn't have an answer, and it kind of stumped him. It's you don't think about it now because it's ridiculous, but at a time, a lot of artists were not necessarily, showcased, and
oh yeah.
BET didn't exist. If it did, it didn't exist in my hometown. But when they did UMTV Raps showed every rap star and everything like that. And I still listen to rock because I technically grew up on rock. Didn't grow up. I mean, I ain't gonna pretend like I said I listened to a lot of hip hop. I didn't. I listened to Bon Jovi and what's his name, Aerosmith, and who was it? The guy who sung White Wedding. I can't think of his name right now.
Billy Idol.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. I didn't start changing into hip hop until 9th grade, And then I still liked I liked Anthrax, and I liked a lot of metal bands as I got older. It kind of changed over time, but it was mainly hip hop throughout my young years, and R&B like Boyz II Men and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, Boyz II Men.
Mhm.
I grew up. Yeah, I grew up like I would say that I went through phases like when I was real small because it's influenced by like what your parents like and everything
Yeah.
and whatever they're listening to, you're listening to.
Exactly.
So I grew up like listening to Elvis, Johnny Cash,
That's pretty cool.
Conway Twitty, yeah, like all of those, Loretta Lynn. Um, and then like when I got into, like I think maybe when I was like 10, whenever the 2000s were,
Yeah.
yeah, I was 10. It was like pop, Britney Spears, NSYNC, and then
That's cool.
I went into like metal and like all of that. So it just kind of like I'm everywhere.
That's a good thing, though. You have to have a wide variety of music. Especially, I would say, if you're a musician, your perspective is going to be different from other people's perspective. It's like if you're training to become an athlete, or you're or you're a writer or something. Your perspective is different because you're actually putting work into it, as opposed to someone who's listening to it. And everyone has their snobbish. They don't think this is real music. I said, based on what? I mean, do you play music? Well, I don't play music. Then how do you know it's not real music? I mean, it's your opinion, but let's be honest. I mean, everyone has an opinion. Doesn't mean their opinion is correct. But I respect anyone who play. If you are a singer and you try to write your own music, that's a lot of work to do. If you're a writer and you write your own books, there's a lot to do. If you're anyone who's actually trying to put something together, I respect them more than the person who's doing nothing and then trying to give their opinion. Like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And if you kind of half-ass think you know what you're talking about, I'm going to less listen to you than someone who's actually a singer. Like, your opinion means more because you're actually trying to create music. And it's a difficult thing, and it's a pain, and it's frustrating. And I know it has to be a pain in the ass, but if you're trying to do it, I commend anyone who's attempting to do it, regardless of someone who's not.
Oh, yeah. Like, a lot of people think that this is just so easy that you can do it, and it's, like, so fun, but it's work. Like, you're going to work.
Exactly.
I love it. Like, I would like it to be my full-time job.
Yeah.
But it is hard. Like, it's not as easy as you think it is.
No, anything that's worth doing is going to be hard. Anything that's worth putting the work into is going to be hard, because no one ever says, if you are, let's say hypothetically, if you're an actor and you have small plays or whatever, and then you somehow get to a main stage where you do commercials, and then you start doing, oh yeah, you're pretty good, we want to put you in movies, and then like someone says, that's pretty easy. I say, hey, I started out in school, then I went to college, then I studied in college, then I auditioned 30, 50, 100 times, and still honing my craft, and still when I got onto the main stage, I still got dialect coach and acting coaches to get me to home, because even though you can be a seasoned veteran, there's stuff you can still learn. And when people say it's easy, it's like, based on what? Nothing? If you're doing nothing, that's easy. Nothing is easy. Yeah.
Well, people love to say that artists, like, don't do anything. Like, it's, like, dealing with the public or dealing with, like, any social media, like, it takes a toll on you. It really does.
Yeah, I agree. It's and you're trying to hone your craft, and some people are childish. But I always say this: like, it's easy to run your mouth when you have no confrontation. And I'm not looking forward to anyone getting their ass whipped. I'm not saying it's like you should get beat up. And there's a good example. There was a guy. He was like a police officer, and he was a pretty jacked up guy, and he probably should have did what he did. I don't know. Maybe he had a chip on his shoulder, but he was all flexing in front of the camera. He said, "Yeah, I don't like how people talking about police officers. If any one of y'all fighters have want to step to me, y'all go ahead and do it." And within 5 seconds, about 30 people, "Yeah, I want to meet you. I want to meet you. I want to meet you." And then next day, "Hey man, we need to come together." Nah, keep that same energy. You got out there, and you thought no one's going to step to you. You thought someone's going to touch you. But you didn't have to say that at all. And there's a lot of people out there, and for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe they're insecure, maybe they're dealing with issues. They feel the need to tear other people down. And I don't understand the personal attack. If you have an opinion about something, and this one says, "Hey, I don't like that," and y'all have a discussion. But when someone attacks you personally, it's like, why? We're never going to meet. And if we did, you wouldn't say that to my face. Not there's a reason you're going to get an ass whooping. You wouldn't say that to my face because you know the realization of it is this confrontation I really didn't want to have. So I understand that the personal or the negativity. It sucks that anyone has to go through that. It's not fair.
Yeah. People are crazy.
Yes.
They're dealing with their own issues, and I think we all just need to calm down and breathe.
Exactly. It's unfortunate that social media has bred cowards, has bred very mentally ill people who don't know how to communicate in the same way. Maybe they're always there. Maybe this just brings out people who shouldn't be online or whatever. But it is what it is.
Well, yeah, like when you go to the internet or like social media, it's basically like the world, like you're seeing the world. That's how people act probably. It's like some people will say that like, oh, if they're acting this way online, they might not act like this. But some people do. Like, people are crazy. I work with them, I know.
Yeah.
Like, they will go crazy on you, like, if they don't like how you're talking to them, if they don't like how you said something. Like, everyone has some kind of tick, I guess.
I don't know. It's weird. Because when I first, I did Twitter, I am one of the people who was very immature. I didn't do it for spiteful reasons. I forgot that, oh, you're a grown man, and you probably shouldn't say this. And I got kicked off of Twitter a lot, but I thought it was funny. But I have Facebook. I don't do it on Facebook. I feel like Facebook to me is kind of like you're in a group chat, and all of a sudden that'd be weird if in a group chat I tell someone to go fuck themselves. It's like, Cordell, I can see you, and we live in the same neighborhood. I will come and see you. That's why I feel like Facebook, I'm not going to do that. I just like people's stuff, and I comment oh, it's pretty cool, or like that. This is far. I'm not, and if it's a Facebook friend, even though we're not tight buddies, if I have a problem, I'm just going to message is there an issue or something like that? And we can hopefully talk about it as opposed to getting an argument. That's really corny. Because I'm not going to, and if I someone I don't like, I'll just block them. I'm not going to argue with you. Block, goodbye.
Yeah.
That's it. You got to go.
Yeah, I've had to learn that. I tend to give people too much of my time.
Yeah.
And I've learned the hard way. You can't always try to help people or give them what they want all the time.
No, that's not gonna really. Yeah, that's not gonna really work. Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a specific genre of music or something like that. Let's say have you ever listened to we talk about Billie Holiday, right? Did we talk about him?
Oh yeah.
We talk about did you ever watch there was not Billie Holiday, but you ever watch it was a Miles Davis movie that Don Cheadle did. It wasn't very good, it was boring, but he looked like Miles Davis. If you look it up, he produced and directed and produced this movie by Miles Davis. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but he looked kind of rough. He was I think he was a heroin addict or something like that. But it was interesting, do you look at any of the movie. Let's put it this way. Let me ask it this way. What do you think the biopics of certain musicians that are more honest portrayals? What movies do you think are more honest portrayals of musicians or whatever specifically? Because it's a ton of them out there. Like, there's one on there's one on what was his name? Great Balls of Fire back in like '90s, something like that. There's like Ray. There's like one on Jimi Hendrix that Andre 3000. I don't think anyone saw that one. There's one on Hank Williams.
Well, sounds familiar. Like honest, I don't think like anything can be completely honest, but like the Billie Holiday one, like it seemed genuine.
Yeah.
And the Tina Turner one also seemed genuine, as well as the Temptations one. I'm trying to think. I know that the Selena movie was not like completely accurate.
No. What do you think about the Ray one? Or I'll tell you this.
The Ray one I thought was genuine.
That was pretty cool. Ray Charles, before he died, he told them, he said, "Don't make me a saint. I was not a saint."
Yeah.
But I always feel like those are not my generation, so I can almost kind of watch it from afar. And no matter, they could tell stuff, and I probably know, because Ray is the one I feel like I got educated more. But the Straight Outta Compton one, I love
that. Yeah.
I love the movie. Don't get me wrong. I thought that the young O'Shea Jackson, the one that actually he's Ice Cube's son, he played it, and then Eazy-E's son was trying to get cast in it, but he couldn't cast it. He cast another man. The other man was a good actor, and they got a lot of actors to portray the characters. But I grew up watching and listening to NWA, so I know the stories. And spoiler alert, not really a spoiler alert, because it's not a fictitious movie. These are historical things that actually happened. I feel like they kind of downplay a lot of the stories in the movie. And get me wrong, here's the thing. A movie's a movie. You're never going to... I understand why they try to curve certain characters in movies, because they don't want the audience to hate them. Even though you're a human being and it shouldn't matter, but they try to basically, curve it. But the problem is sometimes the story kind of puts him in a light that's way too favorably, and it's like, okay, this is a young man. This young man made mistakes. And I'll give you an example. In the movie Straight Outta Compton, the story is basically about NWA, the rise of NWA, and all kind of stuff. Well, in the movie, and it's all documented, so it's nothing that's made up. Ice Cube felt that Eazy-E and Jerry Heller and all them were stealing money from them. Like, basically, Eazy had his own album and had, their album. So he made his own money and took cut from the album, the other group members. And he felt, no, we're all together. So whatever you make is all together. And they try to say, well, you're an up-and-coming group, but all you're up-and-coming group. So he left the group and he created his own hit squad and all this kind of stuff. Well, at that time, it got really heated. It shouldn't have. These things came back and forth. At one point, Ice Cube was on UMTV Raps or whatever, and he was talking about his album. And then, NWA came on and were talking about their album. Well, what happened was, I guess, something was said and someone got in their feelings. I don't know. But the VJ... Dr. Dre saw her in a club and beat the shit out of her. He beat the shit out of a woman. Badly. And he had to serve he had to do PSA spousal abuse commercials. They never talk about it in the movie. They never mention it in the movie.
Wow.
That's never mentioned.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I remember it. I remember the commercials. I remember the spousal abuse commercials. That was not told. another thing was not told. After Ice Cube left, well, Dr. Dre felt that, he was not, Eazy. They kind of had a falling out and all that kind of stuff and whatever. Well, at the time, Suge Knight was head of security for for MC Hammer, and he was friends with Dr. Dre. So he somehow got him out of his contract. Now they did show the fact that, apparently, Suge Knight met Eazy-E and they beat the shit out of him and some thugs, and they beat the shit out of him badly. And he signed the contract because he threatened to kill his family. So that part was so. But the part they didn't talk about was the part that transpired afterwards, where there was diss tracks back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and at one point, they didn't tell the other side of it. They made it seem like Eazy got punked down and whatever and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of that wasn't told, and it also made it seem like Dr. Dre was some kind of superhero or all that kind of stuff. Now I know he's a producer and Ice Cube's a producer, and there was a lot of stuff was not told in the story. Now, if this story was, like, if you didn't grow up watching, if you didn't know NWA, you probably maybe know, Ice Cube from Are We There Yet, and the Friday movie, you may know him that. You may know him from, the various movies and all kind of stuff like that. And you might know Dr. Dre because you know Eminem, you know Dr. Dre and all kind of stuff like that. So you probably would know the history of NWA and all kind of stuff. When you see the movie, it's like when I saw Ray, or when I saw the Tina Turner story. Because the only thing I know about Tina Turner was the song What's Love Got to Do With You. I didn't know she was getting smacked around by Ike Turner. I didn't know Ike Turner was raping her. I didn't know that they had a whole thing where Ike Turner, she's trying to get her name and keep her name and all that kind of stuff. Like, I didn't know that. And, Ray, the only thing I knew about Ray was the Pepsi commercial. I didn't know any songs he sung. So when I saw this, oh, cool. But, if you grew up in that era time, you might have known more, or you might have a more understanding. But I knew NWA movie. It's okay, you're leaving stuff out. But I know why they did it. The reason why they did it because they probably feared that if the audience would see some of the stuff that Dr. Dre did and maybe allegedly did, they might turn on them. And my theory is this: regardless of who is a monster, if you have basically grown up and learned the areas of your ways and become a better man or a better adult or whatever, you should at least, not let it set aside, but willing to, accept that and look at them as an artist and separate from the artist from the actual human being. Because, sometimes a human being could be the pure devil, but you still like his music or you can still like their art. And movies do that now. Movies kind of try to basically sugarcoat things they don't have to. It's like, if I did hate them, I'm still don't like the movie. So that's why I asked you, if you saw anything. And it's I know movies are not accurate, but did you ever see Great Balls of Fire? It's before your time. Did you ever hear it? Did you ever see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
That was also...
I've seen a lot of stuff.
It's very creepy, but it's he slept with his 14-year-old cousin. Okay, let's break that down. She's 14, pedophile. Yeah. And it's your cousin. That's some incest. And he married her. How come her father didn't murder him? I'm still surprised by that.
Right? It's insane to me, that was even allowed to happen. But, I guess people just didn't give a shit back then.
I think the statute of limitations, the age statute, because, there's stories, let me say this. Okay, the R. Kelly thing. When the R. Kelly thing came out, and I never was a big R. Kelly fan. I never cared much for music. I'm sure he's a great singer. I didn't care for his music. Didn't care much for him at all, really. He always came off as gross. And, when the Aaliyah thing early on, and no one... That's the thing, I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound bad, but I don't mean it the way it sounds. I don't think people really, honestly, really care about underage girls going out with grown men. I don't think they care as much as they pretend to be. Unless it's in your face or it's, in your family. Sometimes if it's like a star, you don't really, I'm not saying you are approving of it. You don't really care. You pretend to be cared, but you don't really care. And I said like this, if people really cared, a lot of people would be in jail right now. If people really was really upset, like they pretend to be, like in whatever, there'd be a lot of people in jail. And like the R. Kelly thing is interesting because, like, before the sex scandals and all that kind of stuff, it came out, him peeing on the girl and all that kind of stuff. He's been doing this for years. He's been doing it for 20 years. He's been having sex with young girls for 20 years. And a lot of people knew. A lot of people were aware of it. And the Aaliyah thing was the most weirdest thing because Aaliyah was 14 when they met.
Yeah.
They say supposed to get married when she was 16 or 17. He met her when she was 14. He sings songs about her. One of her songs about her standing in front of middle school and how he met her on the playground. Those are songs he sung. Now, this was 1955. This is in 1945. This is 1975. This is in 1985. This is 1990. It's in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that means you heard the songs. And when she came on TRL, not TRL, 21, 20, whatever, 901 and Park, whatever it's the BET show, whatever the version of his MTV. I remember the VJs on there saying, "So, is you and R. Kelly friends? Girlfriend or boyfriend? Did you ask this girl, this grown ass man was her boyfriend?" They didn't care.
Wow.
That wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
They did not care.
Yeah.
Okay, now that happened. Okay, now you can go back and you can say, like, stories, not even a Woody Allen thing, that's something separate. But you can say, like, did you know about the story about Steven Tyler? Steven Tyler got a 13-year-old girl pregnant. That happened.
Wow.
That happened. We only want to talk about Elvis and his 14-year-old date. Or we can talk about the numerous times of child having sex with other grown men. That happened. I mean, there's stories that have been told that the public was aware of, and they act like it's new, but it's like you already knew. But the truth is, it's not like you're okay with it. You really don't care, because, like, well, I'm sure it's okay. I mean, there's stories. They said Marvin Gaye, the mom was basically allowing Marvin Gaye to sleep with her, his young daughter. I mean, there's stories. So it's like, the what's the name, the Great Balls of Fire, even though it's in the 60s, it's been going on and it still goes on. So it's like, I guess it was a point I was going, I kind of forgot what it was now. It was the point I was making. I kind of forgot. But yeah.
Well, if you're a lady, like, there aren't very many protections for you, as we've seen. Like, recently, Bill Cosby was just acquitted from all of his crimes. So, like, I would say that the women care, but the majority of men, like, or people just, they have their own shit and they just can't function.
I don't think you fathom it. You don't, and it's like, sometimes you don't fathom what's going on. I'll say it like this. I remember a movie called Cuties came out, and the movie came out on Netflix, and keep in mind, this movie is very creepy, even though it's a point to the movie. There's, like, it's a movie set in, it's a foreign film. It's on Netflix, and it's a movie about young girls in pageants, and it's basically about an 11-year-old girl who's joining the pageant. I never watched it. I knew the kind of half-assed version of the plot, but it's a French-speaking movie, but I think it's set in, like, Trinidad or, like, some country, not American. No one ever would have known about the movie. The movie would have never been necessary because Netflix is beyond. Netflix got some creepy ass films on it, but no one ever watches because they're all foreign films and they boring as hell. So you can get away with a lot of stuff and no, but for some reason Netflix thought it was smart to advertise film, and in the movie, there's a scene in the movie, I think they're dressed in provocative, whatever, but that's not the poster. The actual poster of the Cuties poster was them holding balloons and running down the street. But they took one scene from the movie where they're dressing in sexually provocative outfits, and people lost their shit. They boycotted Netflix and all that kind of stuff. And some people, I was talking to some people and they act like they were offended. And I didn't want to get in this argument because it's a dumb argument. I don't want to be on the side of the pedophile movie because even though I know the director, it's not their intention, the director was like, this is her life and she was trying to tell a story and sometimes it's misconstrued. But I was thinking of this, I said, if everyone is actually offended like they say they are, then how is Toddlers and Tiaras was a thing? How is Dance Moms a thing?
Right. Yeah.
And okay, and it's going even further than that. Yeah, that's
crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Let's go in front of that.
Yeah.
If people were offended, then in the movie It, no one ever said in the movie It. There's a scene in the movie It, the remake, where it's an 11-year-old girl flirting with the drugstore person. That's in the movie. No one got offended by that. No one got offended about Neverending Story. And Neverending Story first came out, they kind of dressed the girl very like older and provocative in there. No one said about that. I can mention movies from like 1970 to 2000, whatever, and I guarantee you there's scenes in movies where you go, exactly how old is this girl? Now, 11, clearly inappropriate. Well, they do provocative things for 12-year-olds. Okay, that's inappropriate, I guess. Okay, they do 13. Okay, where's the cutoff? Because clearly there's no cutoff. Because there's a movie called 13 where there's a movie about a 13-year-old girl who's playing a 13-year-old girl who's 13 in the movie who actually deals with, sexual things she's doing with older boys. That was okay. So what's the cutoff?
Yeah.
Get asked the question.
Unfortunately, like, these are real stories. Like, this stuff actually happens.
Yeah.
So the movies are portraying, like, actual, like, real-life events. But they're... Like, Hollywood is chock full of pedophiles.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah. Gigantic perverts. It's going as far back as the beginning of the movie industry began. I mean, Shirley Temple has a book on how she was probably molested. They did it with Judy Garland. There was no child labor laws back then. And you can work, kids to like 16 hours and chock them full of amphetamines and drugs and stuff like that. The Feldman kids, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, even though Corey Feldman, he has like a bullshit documentary, I noticed some fact in it. Even this horse shit he made, and he clearly has some problems. He clearly has some mental problems. His partner has some problems. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, I think there's, some issues there with him. He needs some help for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly an example of a person who's like, mentally ill. And I hope he has gotten help. But you always think about, and he hung out with, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim were little kids, and they were hanging out with Sam Kinison. Someone didn't touch them. And then, there's been, since the Me Too movement came out, and a lot of people have been called out for indiscretions, and, some people may be wrongfully accused or whatever. But the conversation needed to happen, even though it never happened for so long. And it's like, even though it's the Hollywood stars, it's the genesis was for working class people who can't talk to anybody. You work in a working office and, you got a boss that's like, I've been checking out that tight skirt you got on today. It looks mighty lovely. You should find a job. If that's okay, this person is finding a job because that's not acceptable. Or even back in, the Mad Men era, the Mad Men, I don't know if you ever saw the show. Like, every other episode, there was a secretary crying in the bathroom because she probably heard some stuff she probably never needed to hear.
Yeah.
And that's gone on forever. So, it's, I never was going to think that Bill Cosby was ever going to serve any actual time. I was never naive to think that he was ever going to get called out. Even though some people, you can say he didn't do it, he might have done it. But let me tell you something. If 64 people accuse you of snatching booty, you didn't done 30 of them. If 15 people accuse you of rape, you didn't 5. It ain't going to be 15 people accusing you of rape. You did something. 15 people are not going to make up something. 64 people, even though if you have the industry against you and you're a black man and you're accused and it's fucked up and you may be rough with some feathers, you may piss someone off, you may have a conservative view on stuff, or maybe you're a radical person. 64 people are not going to make up shit. Not 64. Do you know how much 64? 64 people didn't seen your dick. 64 people didn't seen your dick. Even though if 30 young people were willingly, supposedly, maybe didn't want to upset you, wanted to get a deal ahead, 30 people, you didn't drugged. He admitted. He said that he did Quaaludes and stuff. Okay, we're not going to overlook the fact that you said you did Quaaludes. We're not going to look the fact that one time when the accuser said that she said trainer said he assaulted her, he said it was consensual. Aren't you a married man? What you snatching booty for? I think it's because it's the father figure and he is portrayed on television, but sometimes you have to separate the two. You have to willing to separate the man from the actual myth of whatever he became. And I knew there's a lot of assailants, there's a lot of rapists, a lot of assault people who get away scot-free, and because of the statute of limitations, that's why molesters go free. They never, and that's why they perpetuate the cycle, and that's why people have mental issues and suicidal and depression, and they carry stuff and they shouldn't, because the law is not on the victim's side. It never was. Yeah. The people who run it are monsters. So why would it be now? It just never have been. That's why laws were built for powerful people to get over. That's why that's why the whole what's the guy's name who got hung in prison? I forget his name.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. And it's say this. Jeffrey Epstein's a monster. We already know that. Jeffrey Epstein is a sociopath, whatever. Jeffrey Epstein also had a lot of powerful people. And Jeffrey Epstein probably supplied a lot of powerful people, young girls or young boys, or whatever they are into, whatever they enjoy, taking up young girls, whatever. Yeah. Then, for whatever reason, I don't know if Jeffrey Epstein got busted for something. I don't know if he felt guilty, but he was going to sting like a canary. So you think them powerful people are willing to let this man tell them their kinky secrets? You got to go. And a lot of powerful people are not going to jail. Yeah, they're not going to jail. They're not going to go. They're not going to go to jail. Yeah. And it's it's designed. Even when you two criminals and one's the low rent criminal and his boss is the big wig, whatever. I guess John Gotti. John Gotti, Teflon Don. He's the Don, he was a big-time mob boss. You know how he got taken down? He got taken down by Sammy the Bull. Sammy the Bull killed 19 people. Sammy the Bull killed his own brother. Sammy the Bull turned state evidence. How is he not in prison too? That's how fucked up. Yeah. That's how fucked up the judicial system is, and it's gonna stay like that forever. Broken. Yeah. And I don't know how they're going to fix it because I'm not that smart to figure it out. But, they both should have been in prison. Like Jeffrey Epstein, if the laws were correct, a lot of people probably would have been in prison. But they're not going to get touched because, who's going to go after them?
Well, you have to think about it who has the power? White men. Yeah. White men have the power. So there's no protections for anyone else because they are controlling what happens.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious it's just disgusting. It makes me sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we need more people who run for office who are qualified. But we also need to change the system within. and it's hard to do. That's why, like, so many neighborhoods are fucked up. That's why we have, the schools are bad, and education should be important. And all these conversations are really corny conversations that happen every year. Like, a politician will get up and go and say, I want, cleaner schools and cleaner streets, and I want education. You're just talking. You can't put that in place. Or you'll say something like, I want lower taxes. We can't do that. Or he'll say, if you're a conservative, your views probably would resonate more, because a lot of people are probably more conservative, but they're more realistic. But a liberal, kind of like, it sounds like a fantasy. That's why a lot of, like, very socialistic, people who run for office, even the people who would vote for them, they must be talking Dungeons and Dragons. They must be talking in fantasy world, because in reality, no one would ever support that, because the average person is conservative. I don't mean conservative like you're homophobic or race. I mean conservative like, I want to be able to pay my bills. I want to go to make sure my kids are taken care of. I want to make sure that, like, I'm going to church and I'm doing whatever I need to do, and I want to have a normal life and be able to retire normally. Not the crazy, I guess, Klansmen's, whatever version, or, someone who hates gay people so much. Not that version, but the average person. So that's why, like, people like Donald Trump got into office, because it's like, it's not even like, I'm not even going to say the psycho version of the Trump support. I'm talking about the person, like, I don't hate Obama, but I felt like his policies hurt me. I don't hate Democrats, but there's got to be someone out there I can stand behind. And even though, Donald Trump came out and talked out his ass, he's a cartoon character, he's all orange face, whatever. For some reason, whatever he said, it resonated with certain blue-collar workers, where they're willing to listen to anything. And it's like, I don't want to say you're stupid, and it's easy to say, and it's mean sometimes, and that's why people get defensive. You don't want to call someone stupid. Maybe you're not well-informed, maybe not educated, because I'm not either. I'm not always, because the what's the name, sometimes the campaigns are super boring, and that's how things get by, that's how policy get by, that's how laws don't get made, that's how a lot of things don't get taken care of. But, like, you're hoping this person will be not crazy. Like, there have been tons of presidents have been shitty presidents and have done things that are, like, crazy. But there's also been presidents that, on paper, if you look at them, like, I'll give you an example. And I would say Lyndon B. Johnson. And Lyndon B. Johnson is a great example of a president that, like, he was a staunch conservative. He was for Jim Crow. Matter of fact, when he started, Jim Crow probably was put in place. So he probably used the N-word quite like 1,000 times. But one thing he's actually going to be remembered? He's the person that ended segregation. That's what he's remembered for. You can, of all people, you would think, maybe if John Kennedy had did not get assassinated, maybe John F. Kennedy might be able to put in place the things, but the whole thing about the segregation and all that kind of stuff, and people marching for freedom and all that kind of stuff, that stuff was in place for so many years, because you can say, like, everyone's, together and one in the brotherhood, but a lot of people who grew up in that time grew up during Jim Crow, or grew up during the ending of slavery. So a lot of people have a lot of backwards views and don't see black people or women or anyone as equals. So why would they all of a sudden want to end this separation of humanity, when I don't even value as a human being? And, like, I'm not even saying I don't value you as a brother. I'm not saying I don't value as, like, us as Americans. I don't value you as a human being. You're an animal to me. My grandfather used to beat you. He used to call you a dog. And now I'm supposed to allow you to vote alongside me? You don't know how to read or write. That's how they think. So they had to go through all that nonsense. And there's so many Southern Democrats who fought against it, who some people get hung, and I mean, the history is so bad and so dark and so twisted that there's historical things are coming out now that like it makes America look like the most sadistic, sadist place. But it's not like it's be honest. America's a young country, younger than most other countries, and they have to grow up. And if you need to acknowledge the fact that history is bad, that's where you can grow better. And that's keep saying that, it's a corny thing to say, but it's the fact. But with Lyndon B. Johnson, he was in the right place at the right time. Like Martin Luther King was in the right place at the right time. They were the people who made changes. And with him, he told his constituents in the South, he said, "Look, let me tell you something. What side of history you want to be on? You want to be the right side or the wrong side? Because I want to be on the right side. I'm about the law. Humans deserve rights." And he put it in place. That's what he did. And I'm not saying that he was a great person. And I think that if Donald Trump is much of a clown, orange-faced nitwit, game show host, charlatan, all that kind of stuff, if he had disregarded his ego and stepped aside and said, "Look, we have to come together. This epidemic is not a joke. Find a way to fix this. Find a way." I say, look, a lot of y'all don't trust me. This is beyond us. If he did that, his legacy would have been the man who brought the country together. You know what his legacy is going to be? It's going to be him throwing a temper tantrum and telling crazy Trump supporters, "Hey, I'm not saying you do it, but if you feel like it, storm the Capitol." Storm the Capitol. That's who he's going to remember it for. He's not going to go to jail because no president goes to jail. He's not going to get really harmed because no president really gets harmed in a way. I'm not saying deserve. No one's here deserve. But that's going to be his legacy. His legacy is going to be the person who threw a temper tantrum. And that now he's not the only one who's done shit like that. He's not like George W. Bush. He's done stuff that was immoral and stuff like that. And you could say Bill Clinton was like a womanizer, having sex with just ugly ass interns and goofy shit like that. And you can say George Bush, half-ass stopped the riots, and you can say Ronald Reagan, put in place, Reaganomics and destroyed small businesses, and maybe, Jimmy Carter, whatever he did for 1 year, and then the one before him, and Richard Nixon, him quitting. There's a lot of presidents who have been clowns. A lot of presidents have probably should have been in prison. So it's not like this is new. But he's the last one. And then Joe Biden, some people hate Joe Biden. I don't hate him. It's like, please don't be retarded. Just don't be retarded. Please at least try. And this also sounds bad. We need an age limit. 70's too old. I'm sorry. If you're past the age of retirement, because 65 is retirement. 65 is the age for retirement. 65, someone say 62. I'm going to say 65. That means at 70, you should be enjoying your retirement, not making policies for Americans that you're twice as old. Like Joe Biden.
We need more accurate representation for the younger, because they're gonna have to live this planet. Our young people are gonna have to fix this. Our business, if they can. We're screwing things up so bad right now.
I don't know how we're gonna do that. I don't know how we're going to, because we're like each generation we pretend like I don't think my generation was that great. I hope your generation was better than my generation. And do you consider yourself? Are you considered a millennium? Are you considered that? Are you considered whatever?
I'm a millennial.
I'm considered Generation X, which I don't even know what the hell that means. It sounds gross now. When I heard millennium, I thought it was a made up word. I said, that's not a word. And then there's the baby boomers who also say destroy the generation. But I think you're asking. I think it's not fair, but asking a generation to basically pick up the mantle where the last generation screwed it up. Because I'll say, I'm not saying that our generation didn't screw up anything. We didn't help. And then we're asking you to pick up the slack. And I'm like, in their generation, and I'm not saying you, but I feel like there's people, I'll say college students. College students are made to believe that they're being coddled. They're coddled in a way that's not going to help the country. That's how, I'm not dissing woke people. Woke people are important, and like liberals and conservatives are all important, and they have viewpoints where you're not crazy. But don't misconstrue making someone apologize instead of educating them and explaining why they should be remorseful for what they did. Like, I'm not saying, let's put it this way. If you say a comment on Twitter and it may be unflattering, they should not lose their job. If you say something that may not be inappropriate, or I'll say even homophobic, and you say blah blah, I don't think whatever, it's in the ether, you shouldn't lose your job for that. I mean, maybe this person should be educated, whatever, how they should be educated, but you shouldn't lose your livelihood over something stupid you said. And you shouldn't have to, like, constantly be apologetic all the time for something you said 15 years ago. I'll give you an example. Kevin Hart, when he was going to host the Oscars, Kevin Hart's a comedian. Kevin Hart says stuff is crazy, like most comedians do, and you shouldn't take it seriously. 10 years prior to that, Kevin Hart said a tweet about his son. If son was gay, he would hit him a dollhouse. That's a dumb joke. It's in bad taste. Yeah, I know. It's poor taste, and it's like, I don't like that. Yeah, he apologized 10 years ago. Came back later. I just run the Oscars. All these people, Hollywood people, whatever, you should apologize again. I'm sorry for what I did. You should apologize for it again. And like, yeah, I'll say, okay, I'm not going to run Oscars. Stuff like that. Gina Carano. Gina Carano was the lady, she was the girl from The Mandalorian. She's a UFC fighter. She's a great, semi-good actress. She was a pretty good fighter. She's beautiful, amazing. She's very conservative. She talked about, and in the pandemic, all people go back to church, with all kind, whatever, who cares? It's your opinion. I don't give a shit. It's your opinion. Let it go. Well, she made some correlation between conservatives and the Holocaust, and saying that the same thing that happened to the people in the concentration camp happened to conservatives. Yes, I know that's a jackass, stupid thing to say. She shouldn't have to been eliminated from her job. What should have happened was this. Someone should have called her office and said, look, explain what you're referring to. Because my father or my grandfather was in a concentration camp. I'm not offended. Explain what you're talking about. And I know that, the Disney super company force is not going to take any hits. So when the woke people threw their torches and he screamed, she got fired from it. And granted, she shouldn't have said what she said, but I'm saying you should not be fired. That's why I don't care much for woke people. It's not that I hate them or I think their opinion is not valuable. It's like, your opinion shouldn't be so powerful that I lose my job because I'm a retard. See what I'm saying? I shouldn't lose my job. I should be, you can call someone out, but I should not lose my job because I'm dumb. And I think this generation should not necessarily back down from stupidity, but they should be willing, and it's not fair. And I know this is dumb. This is really not fair. They should be the generation, like the generation during the beginning of Jim Crow to segregation, when the young people were educating and making sure, listen, people need to know what this country's about. We need to remind people where this history of this country came from, and we need to change now. And it's not fair, and it's such a dumb thing to say, and it's super hypocritical from a person who didn't do anything in this generation and did not supply or help anything. So I am very well, it's super ballsy to look at a young person and say, you need to educate people. Motherfucker, you didn't do anything. So I know it's ballsy to say it. I just wish, and it's not going to happen, and it's not fair, and it is what it is. Maybe some young people, we need some people to be able to be educated and be able to put in positions to change whatever outcome of judicial system. We need young people to be able to. We need young people to become well-educated police officers.
We need to educate our young people.
Yeah.
Like, we also need, like, to educate the older, or the elders.
Yeah.
But, like,
who
we
willing
need
to be educated.
The young people to be better than we were, because we're ruining the world. Obviously, we are terrible.
Yeah. we can be better, but it's like,
we all can be better.
Yeah. And I think it's like, it's important to be able to, like, you want to acknowledge your faults, and it's hard to do. And, like, it's always like, we need more people in positions like police officers who are willing, who are educated, not like the defunding. We need police officers and not only got to be brave and have to be able to de-escalate situations and before they become worse. We need people who are strong in, political systems, and be able to educate and show the right way and find solutions for healthcare and for education and for whatever. And if you are a person who's a born-again Christian, you should be also loving and understanding and willing to work with other people, even if they don't have the same belief structure as you. And that's the social fantasy world that, when it comes from someone who is like considered a hippie liberal, they don't want to hear it, because it sounds like they're going to take away their civil liberties, or whatever they think they have, they're going to lose. And it sounds dumb, and that's why a lot of people who run for office are clowns and are like game show host looking people, or frat boy looking dressing, or this very Jim Baker kind of like Southern kind of like preacher kind of person. When you look at him, it's like, how the hell did this dude get in office? Well, he got in office because he's saying the things that the blue collar person wants to hear. I want to hear that you're on my side, not on the liberal arts student side who doesn't have a job and still going to school. And like, I want to be on the conservative family member, has 4 kids, who's trying to get them into school, trying to get them into college. I want to be on my side. And even though the person who is like the conservative, Southern Baptist kind of dude, he'll say some crazy homophobic or semi-pseudo-racist things, he's saying enough stuff that makes me believe that he's on my side. That's why they get by. But like the young people who are hopefully not coddled and not that silly, woke, goofy nonsense, if they can be educated enough and willing to, I don't know, put their...
We have so many resources now, like, even if the schools are not teaching you something, we have the resources. People can learn, like, people can change and they can be better, but it just depends on what kind of person that is. And, like, the people that are in power, like, they pass down the power from, like, to similar people, and it just never gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have to, like, change this cycle of, like, the transfer of power from, like, people that are not acting in the best interest of everyone in the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. Like, It doesn't matter what your personal beliefs are. Like, that should not play a part in it. Like, everyone deserves equal rights and all of this. Like, and obviously we need to save the environment.
Yeah. That's going to be the most important thing. Oh, this hasn't do anything, but did you ever watch the movie Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise?
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's a cool movie. It's like a very underrated movie that like, I don't think it got too much traction. This hasn't been doing anything because I just saw a movie that's similar to it. But in the movie Edge of Tomorrow, it's Tom Cruise plays this GI soldier, and he's on the battlefield. It's like in a, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic world, but it's in like a future, made-up future, whatever. And they're fighting these aliens or whatever, and they can't get anything over the aliens. At one point, a bomb goes off and an alien blows up right next to him, and his body is fused with the alien. Well, he realizes that when he comes back that he's dying like a Groundhog Day over and over again, and then he realizes that the DNA of the alien is fused with him, where he realizes he basically, the aliens, the reason why they're stopping them is because when they die, they can relive the same day. And like the girl from The Quiet Place, Emily Blunt, I think it's Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt is one of the GI soldiers. She realized what's happening. She said, okay, find me. And she trains them to go back and what's her name? And they're fighting aliens. Has nothing to do with anything. I thought it was a cool movie. Thought I'd mention it. If you're a watcher, check it out. It's a cool movie. That had nothing to do with the conversation. I was just thinking about it.
Okay. Cool. Mm-hmm. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to keep it any longer because this is cool though, but I appreciate it. And hopefully, you know, I really enjoy having you on, and I really appreciate it. And hopefully down the line, like, you know, hopefully I have better technology, and I want to be able to, I want to grow this platform and have as many people on. And, you know, basically I want to showcase everyone and showcase their talent and showcase, like, even though I have a small podcast, hopefully it gets bigger and I'll be able to find a wider audience. But I'm very grateful that you were nice enough to do it the first time. And you know, when you're not when you're available and you're not doing anything, hopefully I can come. You know, we can just talk about just anything. So I'm always grateful, and I appreciate you, and thank you again for doing this. You can't hear this, but I just played applause for you.
Thank you.
I hope there's applause. I hope it was a laughter. No, it's applause. But thank you again, though, and you know, hopefully, you know, when you're available, I'd like to talk to you again.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, I will be signing out, and I'll see you later, and hope you have a great rest of the weekend.
All right, thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
That was Jesse Wilcox. Okay, I mean to pause. That was Jesse Wilcox. And she was nice enough to let me interview her, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I know just now you just heard that was Carlos Mencia, because I just realized I still had on YouTube, whatever. But I'm very grateful for her to doing that, and hopefully down the line I will be able to, you know, meet her again, and we'll talk about, you know, whatever. So, you know, now I'm going to be signing off, and when I do, I'm just going to play zombie sound effects. Motion.